Okay, so it's a little bit after. Oops, I forgot the music. My, this is a very professional video. Forgot the music. Not that you're going to be able to hear it, but I'm putting it up here anyway. That's better. It was hard choosing music to back up this video because I get a feeling pretty much most of the things that I'm going to talk about would get blocked here. Um, so, just for musical copyright stuff. So I'm going with the one thing that I didn't get for a Christmas present, but that I've been listening a lot to. So what I'm going to do is a short. I'm keeping this one under 12 hours because I know most of my videos tend to go on for 13 to 14 hours. Um, I don't know why you wouldn't want to watch me talk for 13 or 14 hours, but I've heard complaints. So I'm going to show some of the stuff I got this Christmas. It's a theme now. I've been on now for a couple of years. I showed the music stuff last year that I did get for Christmas. I can't believe it was a year ago because they're still in a pile here, right beyond your view. Like the Wayne Shorter box set that I got. I showed, and I was watching. Axel did a video about Christmas stuff that he got, and he included, a lot of things that weren't music. He included a lot of his books that he got, which I'm tempted to do now. But I didn't get any books this year. I did last year. I did show the one music-oriented book that I did get, which I hadn't started. I've read 2 pages in so far. This was last year. Mussorgsky, the composer. I finally started reading it, but I only got 2 pages into the introduction. My mind has to be at peace to read. I've got this thing, and people growing up with it now don't even realize it's an issue, but I get distracted too easy, and what am I missing? And let me check my email, and when I'm not looking at email, did somebody make a video? Did one of my friends make a video that I want to see, and then I want to comment on? And back in the '70s, that wasn't an issue, or the '80s even. It was a nice thing to sit down, especially in the evening, with a book and just spend a couple hours reading if you could. And I love reading, but man, I'm just bad at thanks to the internet. And having friends, or most of my friends that don't live here, so that's how we communicate. What does this have to do with anything? I don't know. So this year I didn't get any books, or else I'd show them. At some point I'm going to show you a couple books that I got last Christmas that don't have anything to do with music, but are funny and enjoyable, but I didn't pull them down. And I have a voting thing. Maybe I'll get to the voting thing first. Thanks to my sister and her husband, for Christmas I got a gift certificate from Amazon for $100. And initially, I need your votes, people. If you watch my videos and you don't normally comment, that's fine. But if you can vote, you can just do it with one word. I need you to make a choice, 1 or 2. I got this gift certificate for Amazon. What I was going to use it to purchase was a new microwave oven. My sister actually bought me a moving-in present when I moved here about 4 years ago of a really nice microwave oven with a convection oven on the bottom, which convection oven you can use to cook things like in a traditional oven. I cook frozen pizzas in there because it's really big, so I can put my frozen pizzas in there. And believe it or not, and she's had the same exact model for years. She bought me the same one she had, which is great, and it broke. The microwave portion of it broke. Now, for me, I don't do a lot of cooking. Most of the meals that I buy are microwavable, pre-made meals that you throw in the microwave and you let them cook for 5 minutes or whatever, and they're done. And I don't even have a teapot. I heat my water up in there, for hot tea. So the microwave oven broke, 6, 7, 8 months ago, some time ago. And thankfully, though, the convection oven works, so I've been able to eat pizza, my favorite food, because the frozen pizzas I buy are cooked in the bottom part, which is the convection oven. However, I've had to change my lifestyle so much because all these meals that I was buying that were microwavable, I don't have a microwave to use now. So I've had to cook them on the stove top. So most of these frozen things that come in these big frozen clumps, you can also, throw into a pot and heat it on the stove top, and it just takes a lot longer, but it can be done. So I've been doing that, and I'm slowly getting used to that, but it just takes more time, and I'm used to, throwing the thing in the oven, coming back on the computer for 5-10 minutes, and going back to the microwave oven and pulling out the meal, and it's done. When you're cooking stovetop things, you got to watch because crap boils over and things catch on fire and all that, and it does take longer. But I've been doing that. I'm getting by, and I specifically asked my sister to get me a gift certificate for Amazon because I saw, they got microwaves on there, and I wanted to see if I could get another microwave convection oven, whatever. Which I was just about going to do. But as you folks know who have been watching my videos, my computer's really old. I don't know, 10 years old or more. And if you've watched many of my videos, you've seen videos where the sound slows down and the video goes out of sync because the processor just can't handle it. And this thing is dying. So now I'm also considering getting a new computer to replace that. And struggling by with the working convection oven and doing everything on stovetop for the foreseeable future. So I need you to vote. Do I go with the microwave, or do I buy a new computer? $100 isn't going to buy either one, but it gets me closer to it. So that's the route I'm going. It would be, the new computer would be the one here, a desktop. I'd be recording my music into it, which I do here, but I have space issues and I'm constantly deleting things, and the files when you write music are very large. So, some of that can be resolved by buying external drives, but this computer's so old it has trouble reading external drives with any kind of speed. So there's an issue with that. There's an issue that a couple times recently I've turned this computer on, and you can hear the hard disk spinning, and it's making a racket like it's going to die at any minute. It sounds like it's hitting up against something, and I got to turn it off and turn it back on again, and hope that it doesn't do it when I turn it on. And I've had a lot of issues with it. I know it's not too many people would be using a computer this old, but this is a bit of a dilemma. So I need you to vote: the microwave or the computer. And that ends my preamble. Now on to my 11-hour and 52-minute presentation. A lot of the stuff that I've been listening to lately, besides the Christmas presents, are old things that I've had laying around. And a lot of 1980s era quote-unquote new age synthesizer music. Some of these things were gifted to me by someone who wants to remain anonymous, so I have to respect that. But I've been listening to a lot of these 1980s synthesizer things that came out on a fairly obscure label that I wasn't aware of at the time. One of the things that I also was in a conversation with Carm, and he mentioned to me this guitarist who I believe lives in this area, John Mulder. And we were emailing, talking back and forth, or commenting on each other's videos or whatever, and he mentioned John Mulder. And he's like, I sent you John Mulder CD. And I'm like, you did? And it's one of those things, I must have been, it was a time that, I couldn't even keep up with the VCLT that came, And a few things, everything I've got loaded into my computer, but not everything got played a whole lot. And I believe John Mulder, he said, is actually, I think, a priest or something like that, in Carm's Chicago area where he lives, and he's a fine guitarist. And one of the two CDs that Carm sent me, some time ago actually, which I'd kind of forgotten about, it's in my computer, forgotten about, was a live thing of John Mulder on guitar, just acoustic guitars, and Ken Hall on vibraphone. So So if you're familiar with the Gary Burton, Ralph Towner duet albums, the two duet albums that they did, it's along those lines. It's all live. There's no overdubbing. I would really like to hear what these guys could get up to if they did do overdubbing. The problem with such a light instrument as vibraphone and guitar is that the guitar is fine when it's playing in a rhythmic fashion. When you go to take a solo, though, the vibraphone doesn't really fill in that deeper end of the guitar. So it's quite a feat to play in that type of ensemble without percussion instruments and just two musicians live. But Carm had sent me this CD, which I listened to several times when I got it, and I kind of forgot about it. And he reminded me of it. Now I've been playing it, I don't know, every day for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. Got some well-known pieces by Chick Corea on there, a couple by Chick Corea, a couple Keith Jarrett tunes, a couple Steve Swallow tunes, Stella by Starlight, so there's one standard on there, and only a couple originals. Steve Kuhn, the piano player. It's a really good album. It's called Spirit Talk. And I've been listening to it a lot. So despite the fact that these gentlemen apparently are from the Chicago area, though, this label is a British label. So this CD was actually from England, I think. Here's the record label. Which I guess happens a lot, So this album was actually recorded in a church, live in a church, over a few, like 4 evenings or so, in a period of a couple months. So, I've been listening to this one a lot. It's really good, when you're not in the mood to hear heavy thumping bass and drums all the time, So thanks, Carmen. And, it took me a little while to get to it. I listened to it a few times, but I think I was getting a lot of stuff at the time that he sent this. And, that's the great thing with going back and revisiting. That's the CD I'm playing in the background. I'm hoping that, this isn't something that's going to get a copyright strike. I don't know, because the Chick Corea tunes are on here, and one of them's playing now. Steve Swallow's songs. I've gotten in trouble before with a couple having the video wiped out over a couple standards that I had Dave Brubeck playing in an earlier video. So I don't know. This might end up getting some copyright strikes, and some audio removed. I don't know. So, as far as what I got for Christmas that I've also been listening to, I talked about this guy a little bit. Ginastera or Ginestra, was it Argentinian, I think, composer, that I discovered totally by accident. And here's how, and just recently, this is the only new composer type of person, really, that I got for Christmas. That's somebody that's, a fairly new discovery for me. Kind of modern classical composer. Here's how I came across him. I never even heard of him before. I look at the title of the album, Popol Vuh. I was actually looking at Popol Vuh recordings, to see, which ones I didn't have that looked interesting, etc., etc. And when, I entered Popol Vuh in the search engine, this was one of the albums that came up. I knew it was the Popol Vuh album. It was the title of a piece on the album. But something made me sample it, and it sounded quite interesting. And going onto YouTube, I found a whole bunch of his works. Let me see, 1916 to 1983, so he passed away in 1983. And I really dug them. This might not be the best introduction. This is the actual first physical CD that I have of Ginestra, or Ginastera. But it's really good, but I don't know that it's the best first example of his music. The one thing that I liked about, and I actually created a folder on my page here with a whole bunch of his music and complete pieces or complete albums of his, which you can sample, which are really good. The thing that I liked about a lot of the ones that I heard, and I'm definitely getting more, is that it's not avant-garde, but it's also not. Most of his works aren't as busy as a lot of classical music in general, whether it's contemporary or the older forms, which I liked. This particular piece actually is a little more on the busy side. It's a little more traditional sounding for the most part. Not all of it. There's several different pieces on here. They're all good, all something to learn from. But there's other pieces that I've heard that are in my folder of his that are a little bit more. I wouldn't say sedate, but not as much going on. Incredible composer though. So this will be the first of many. Might not be the best place to start, but it's fine music all the same. And I got a bunch of his things in my folder on my channel, and there's even more than that I haven't even grabbed yet in general on YouTube of his some complete works of his. I was going to put this in the background, but I didn't know. I was a little bit afraid that would be one of the things that I'd get a copyright on, even though I know other works of his are up there in full. Everything else that I got for Christmas, which goes to show you that I'm getting old, are basically CD versions of old albums that I've had for years. And this is what I asked for these things. And it's kind of like I got this attitude like, ain't no good new stuff coming out, you young whippersnappers, you all stink. But I can't help it. When the CD era first hit, the first thing I did was go out and start buying, albums, things that I already had on albums instead of new music. Now that was the mid '80s at that point, and I was buying things that maybe were from the '70s that were coming out on CD, so they weren't quite as old as the things that I'm picking up now that are 30 and 40 years old. But it was almost always I got more excited to hear without all the clicks and pops from the vinyl. The things that I've already had, more so than new things. And the Genestra is really the only new thing that I have here. So I pulled out my vinyls just because the covers, you can see them better on vinyl. So one thing that album I completely forgot about, I haven't listened to it in years. Aerdo, Return to Forever, which I bought, I guess around '82 when this remaster came out. This is really a repackaging of an album initially called Free, Free, and it came out, and then it got reissued, the same exact album with the same exact tracks as Return to Forever, named after, there's a track on here called Return to Forever. And I guess, at that point, with the Return to Forever band being a fairly, in terms of jazz, commercial endeavor, and the fact that Chick Corea plays on, and Stanley Clarke, from Return to Forever, and, those kind of things, those kind of, Flora Brim, Joe Farrell, all these guys. You can see George Benson's on here, even Keith Jarrett. A lot of really well-known musicians. So by tagging it Return to Forever, probably a lot of people, they think of it as a Return to Forever album, maybe, or mistakenly you sell a few extra copies, whatever. On the back here, though, it does say, previously released as CTI, blah, 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 whatever the catalog number is, free. So, and oh, by the way, recorded at Rudy Van Gelder's studio here in New Jersey, no less. Rudy Van Gelder, engineer, and Pete Turner, photographer. Pete Turner did a lot of very cool 60s, late 60s, early 70s, I think he's still alive, album covers in the jazz world, and I found him online once. He's got his own website, which it might be peteturner.com, I forgot. I didn't even realize he did the cover, though, until now. And I sent him an email, because there was one particular image he had on a Wes Montgomery album. I didn't really think he'd answer, but he did, because I needed to know what the image was. There was like a reflection in the image, and I couldn't decide, what it was, and I even asked Glenn what he thought it was, my friend, and he gave his impression, and when I said, I'm going to send this guy an email and tell him how I like his photography, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to ask him a question. He'll probably never answer me. And sure as shit, he got back to me. He told me, how he did this image reflection and what the reflection was and all this stuff. So, here's a CD. Got it on CD now. I hesitate, though. This one company, I'm not a big fan of Wounded Bird Records. Wounded Bird Records is a reissue label out of New York, so they're not too far from where I live. But I've read and heard a lot of bad things about the quality of the things that they put out. And they do a lot of, they release a lot of things that had not previously come out on CD, but they have also done re-releases of things that came out in CD back in the day, back in the mid 80s, that went out of print shortly afterwards, and have been out of print since maybe the late 80s or early 90s. And I've heard people complain about the quality, so I just I hesitate and I go slow with them. So they do, they always have only the 4-panel, thing, CD booklets. They never do a real extensive booklet. And now the thing here is that I don't like, it doesn't really matter much, but, they took out any reference to this being the album Free, previously released as Free. They wiped that off of the credits, which I don't know why they did that. And then they list the songs and the musicians, like in 3 different places. The back, which is great. Here in smaller print on the original, you can't even read it, it's so small. And then inside. So 3 different places they're listing the songs and the musicians, which is a little redundant. But the only place where they have the recording information, the recording date, and the fact that it was a Rudy Van Gelder recording is on this back part here. That's too small to read. So I couldn't even read the date that it was recorded. I had to go back to my vinyl to read it. So you think that, hey guys, you've got space, you're regurgitating the same information. You can see how, much space is left over there. You can't put the recording date on there, or the fact that it was a reissued album, previously called Free, or, it's a little frustrating to me. I like it, or where it was recorded. Rudy Van Gelder, you sure as hell can't read that from this, from the little type in the back, really. So, Wounded Bird, the record sounds okay. And, doing a little search on Discogs, I found out that the edition of the album, which was originally called Free, has come out on CD. I don't think in the United States, but in Europe. So the album has also been issued as Free in Europe, but for once, people out there might want to actually buy this US edition, because, and something that Wounded Bird rarely does, there's actually 3 extra tracks on here from the same recording sessions. You don't get that a lot with the stuff I've seen Wounded Bird pretty much reissuing the albums flat as they came out in, 35 to 45 minute things, and these actually have 3 tracks on here, and it's got about 17, a little bit like 17 and a half or so extra minutes, from the same sessions, which is nice. Wounded Bird generally doesn't do much of that from what I've seen. So this would be the edition of Free to get, because looking at the European editions of Free that came out on CD, it's just the original first 5 tracks that are on the vinyl that I showed, and were on the original album, without the bonuses. So for once, the US, which is generally not the best place to get CDs from, comes through. Here's another one from the old days, 1967 album. I showed this, Buddy Rich. I asked for several Buddy Rich albums, pick from amongst. Big Swing Face. This is not the original cover, though. This is a budget reissue on the Pacific Jazz label. They use this cover on multiple albums of theirs, but I actually like the Pacific Jazz design very much. I've got another album recorded at roughly the same time by Buddy Rich, same exact cover. The only difference is the title up there. So this was a budget reissue of this album with a different cover. The CD edition has the original cover, which I'm not crazy about. 7, 8, 9, so it's got 9 tracks. The original album 9 tracks, runs about 38 minutes. Um, I did, want to get the CD edition, so here's the original cover with Buddy playing on it. Um, and this is also, a fairly reasonably priced budget reissue on Pacific Jazz. Um, but the nice thing and something they don't always do on these budget, a lot of times the budget reissues are just, well, we don't care that a CD can fit 80 minutes, we're not going to put, any additional material on here. Well, the original album was 38 minutes, had 9 tracks. This one has 18 tracks from the same sessions. This is like a lot of Buddy Rich albums, essentially a live club date. And so you know that they obviously play more than 38 minutes. They play several sets a night. So they really expanded this one nicely, especially for a budget reissue. It's got the original 9 tracks, which run 38 minutes, and adds on another 9 tracks, 18 tracks total. Goes a little bit over 69 minutes. And, as always, they tend to, when you have a short album, they tend to feature a lot of the more up-tempo stuff. So, when you get to stretch out and have, there's a lot more material from these sessions. This is recorded in the club in '67. And in Hollywood, California, no less. And so the other 9 tracks are previously unissued from the same sessions. It was actually recorded over like 2 or 3 different nights. And, the additional tracks, some of them are very short, but they're good. There's a lot more variety in there when you've got 69 minutes versus 38 minutes. And, so there's a lot more maybe mid-tempo stuff. So this is for a budget, disc, a lot of times those budget discs, they just, whatever was on the LP is what we're throwing on the disc. We're making it reasonably priced, so we're not really going to give you a good, any bonuses. So this is really nice. This is more like, you feel like you're at the club kind of thing, And I guess, guess what? I forgot one of the CDs I got for Christmas. Yeah, because I'm not ready. Oh no, here it is. Pardon me. Okay, so I really wanted this. Again, here's something I've had for years. John Abercrombie's first quartet from 78, 79, and 80. The 3 albums that he recorded for ECM that ECM had not released on CD. Now on that back shelf right behind my head, right there's Brainy, if you can tell it's him, there's a stack of vinyl there. Those vinyls, that stack is getting smaller because what that stack is are the vinyls that I have that have not been released on CD yet. And as things are getting released on CD, even if I don't own them personally, I'm kind of pulling them off the shelf. And I'm placing them with the other albums by that artist. So up until tonight, actually, I had John Abercrombie's quartet albums up there. Even though this set has been out for a while. And actually, some time ago, I got a slight duplication, but I'm happy to have it. Some time ago, before it was announced that this set was coming out, great set by the way, 3 albums, Carm had sent me the 1 CD in the set, a Japanese version, which is just awesome. I think this is probably better than the version. I think the sound quality of this is probably a bit, I haven't done a side-by-side comparison. My feeling is this kind of limited edition, very expensive version of the first album in the set called Arcade, which is a great album, was previously released, oddly enough, not by ECM, but ECM must have licensed it to Japan. And the Japanese released it on 2 different occasions, but just this first album of the quartet, not the other 2. And I had always looked at it, but it was very expensive. And Carm, out of the kindness of his heart, sent me the CD some time ago. So I'm holding on to this. This is absolute treasure. You could see the all the Japanese writing on there. And of course, everything's in Japanese except for this one thing that says ECM for tomorrow. Where is it? So I don't know if that was a series that they're calling For Tomorrow, ECM, whether this Japanese company purchased the rights to release some of the more obscure ECM things or things that hadn't been on CD prior. I don't know. It seems like it might be part of a series. But I'm thrilled. I was thrilled to have this, and I still am. And this is the version I listen to when I play it, even though it is in this box set as well. I'm betting the sound quality is better on the Japanese issue. I'm just betting. And it's nice because I've had those original Abercrombie discs from when they were released in 78, 79, and 80, and I've been listening to them since. And I've been listening to all three of them prior to Carm sending me this version of Arcade a number of months ago. I had been listening to all three albums from the vinyl that I dumped into my computer, and let me tell you, I must have played them a lot. And the general thing is, I generally would only play them to copy them to cassette and then listen to the cassette. But even so, the vinyls on those got incredibly worn, and there's a lot of very quiet moments in that on those albums, on those three albums, and the little pops and the crackle on the vinyl would always come through, and it's very frustrating. And it's real nice to hear especially the quiet sections without all that vinyl noise. I still have, as a matter of fact, I still have the vinyl transfers in my computer, which I put a lot of work into. So I don't really want to delete them, but I know there's no reason for me to listen to them anymore. So these are the vinyl versions. So this is Arcade, the Arcade album from '78. This is the first one. This is the one that Carm so kindly sent me the Japanese edition of. And second one, just a whole Abercrombie Quartet. Good album. They're all good. The funny thing is all three of these are so good that I'm always constantly flipping which one is my favorite, which goes to show you how good they are. And one just called M, which was actually the last one. I might have been wrong with the dates. This was recorded in November 80. In November 80. And going to show you how good they are, I was constantly flipping which one was my favorite of the three. I still am to this day, and I've listened to them hundreds of times. The Arcade is probably the most laid back of the three, which is what you want sometimes, and then the other two, slightly more up tempo at times. But a nice set. It's about damn time ECM put them out on CD. The CDs are almost obsolete now, and it took them this long to get it together. And they still got some really good releases that they haven't released on CD that I'm afraid are not going to ever see CD releases, because I've seen a few things that ECM made available for downloads that they didn't make available on CD. It's a nice booklet too. Actually, I have not bought, but I'm a big fan of Eberhard Weber, as a lot of you folks know. And they did one of these white box sets of his quartet and the three albums that they made. I have all three on CD, so I haven't bought it, and I still want to get that Eberhard Weber box simply because of the booklet with the interview and the extensive liner notes on those releases, really just for the booklet. So you can see why I haven't bought it yet, because I actually have all the material on LP and CDs. But that's how big a fan I am of Mr. Weber, or Weber, or however you want to pronounce it. I forgot, I had something else to say. I've been, trying to record a little music. But again, with this computer, I'm having, if you're familiar with recording with computers at all, there's these latency issues, which is you're playing back something you recorded to overdub, to play over it. And you're hearing things behind, or what you're recording ends up falling behind the beat because there's a delay. And I was trying to record, using this computer tonight, and all the beats were being placed in the wrong places due to this latency issue. Where the computer needs a fast processor, to be able to play back things and record them at the same speed live without any delay. And even the slightest delay causes a problem. Hence, that's one of the main reasons why I'm, considering, and remember to vote, folks. Do I get the microwave or do I get the computer? You don't have to leave any other comments if you don't want. You could just, one word, microwave or computer, if you want. Well, what the hell is today? It's past 3:30 in the morning, so I should be asleep, but I'm not. And it's December 30th. Wow, December 30th. So, today I guess is Friday. I'm not working. I'm absolutely losing track of the days. It's Friday morning now, early morning. Boy, I really don't like New Year's Eve. I really never liked it. I just kind of saw it as a couples thing, and yeah, I've never liked it. Actually, the older I get, the more I dislike it. And it's one of those things. You can try to go to sleep. Well, I'm not even going to sleep through it because I know I'm going to be up. Well, if it goes as fast as Christmas went, and it goes as fast as my favorite Halloween went, then by the time I'm thinking about it, it'll be over. So I'm looking forward to whatever. 2017 maybe being a better year. It'd be hard for it to be worse, but who knows? It could be worse. Hoping it won't be. Okay, well, I've gone on for 11 and a half hours, so I might come back with a short thing for New Year's there's other things I wanted to talk about that I forgot. I forgot what the hell they were. So, hope everybody's doing well. If I don't get back, I hope your Christmas was good, and your New Year's is good as well, and the VC rules for 2017. What can I say? I'll be back. Wish everybody well, and that's it. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.